What's up, everybody? I'm Jimmy King, and if you like this episode, comment, hit that like button, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Today on Carcass, we're ripping through the clipping points.
But before we can do that, we're adding some go-fast goodies to push us past the 500 horsepower threshold.
When you want to build something different, you turn to Carcass. They transform cars and trucks into one-of-a-kind builds. From street to mud. If you dream it, they can build it. This is Carcass, a non-traditional speed shop.
Our Burnout King is getting into the final stages of this build, and this four-door Drifting Trailblazer is almost ready to meet the clipping points. But it's been a long journey to get to this stage.
This project began as a four-door stock Trailblazer SS, a very capable vehicle from the factory, but we made some tweaks to make it drift ready. We started by shedding some weight and adding a roll cage that will protect up to 4 passengers.
The dash, or lack thereof, looked interesting at this point, but we made some mods to fit the original dash back in the vehicle. We followed this up with some proper racing seats we got at Summit Racing and a custom center console we fabbed up.
Now every drift car, or in our case truck, needs a handbrake. So we added one we ordered from Summit Racing to the center console and plumbed it to the rear brakes. At this point, we were almost done with our interior.
That's right. To get it buttoned up, we needed to make some changes to our drivetrain. So we swapped out our tired 230,000-mile engine for a beefed-up LQ9 from PowerTrain Products. This was paired with a Tremec Magnum 6-speed manual transmission from American PowerTrain.
And since this is a manual conversion, Summit Racing sent over a clutch pedal for the cab. And we built a one-off shifter that we're pretty proud of.
A drive shaft from Tom Wood's custom drive shafts finished off our drivetrain, so we turned our attention to the exterior of our family-sized drift truck. We shipped off our Trailblazer to have it wrapped by a local shop, then Jeremy and I got straight to work on the hood.
We wanted to give the front end of our Trailblazer a unique look, so we laid down some carbon fiber. This was something new for both Jimmy and myself. And we couldn't be more pleased with the way that it turned out.
That's awesome. The hood turned out great, and combined with our newly wrapped vehicle, our Trailblazer SS has transformed into a proper-looking drift truck.
You would think this is the end, but we needed to make a few more mods to get this vehicle track ready. We overhauled the front suspension with some custom upper control arms, giving our general tires some better grip during a slide.
And we added an electronic exhaust cutout we picked up at Summit Racing, which will allow us to crank up the volume and turn some heads at the track.
Now our truck is going to roar down the track, but we want to add a little bit of whine to that rumble. So we picked up a power adder from the guys over at Vortech Superchargers. But before we can add all of that, we want to upgrade our fuel and ignition system. We'll be upgrading the fuel pump in the back along with the fuel lines. Then up front, we'll be adding some upgraded injectors, new coil packs, a standalone engine management system, the Holley Terminator X to be exact, and finally a supercharger from Vortech that will push us to the red line limit.
Now we're going to work back to front, attacking the fuel pump first. We'll need to disconnect all the fuel lines, including the filler neck hose, before we bring in a transmission jack to assist in removing the tank.
From here we can remove the retaining ring and carefully remove the stock pump.
With a quick measurement,
8 inches.
we can remove the fuel pump hanger rod from the assembly and cut it to length on the bandsaw.
The hanger rod is then reattached to the pump, so we can cut the inlet and return lines to their proper length. We'll tackle the inlet first, using the brown covered inlet spout for reference.
With it trimmed down, we can connect the pump to the inlet hose and add the fuel sock.
Lastly, we'll trim the return line so it's not too long. Now our new pump differs from our OE pump in 2 different ways. First off, this is a return style system, which sends unused fuel back to the tank. Our original only supplied just enough to keep the engine running, so there was no need for a return line, but it isn't enough for the power upgrades we want to add. Second, the original pump ran at 250 liters per hour at 58 psi. And this one, well, it provides 450 liters at 90 psi, so a huge flow increase over the stock one, and plenty for the power adder we're throwing at it.
We're adding the fuel lines to the fuel pump now because they will be nearly impossible to reach when the tank is reinstalled. We'll also connect the power to the pump prior to installing. With the tank installed, we can move on to our fuel lines. We'll need to install a pressure regulator between the engine and fuel pump.
With that in place, we can attach the return line, inlet line, and the line that will feed the engine. Holley sent us all of our -6 hoses and fittings.
With the pressure regulator plumbed up, we can feed our supply line up to the engine, snaking it along the bottom and up through the engine bay. We'll gauge its length at the fuel rail and cut it to length.
All there's left to do is add the quick connect fitting from Holley and make the connection at the fuel rail, supplying enough fuel for our power adder.
With everything run to the engine bay, we can tackle some of the upgrades on our engine before we get to the Vortech Supercharger. We'll need to remove a few components. Some of these will get upgrades, and some of these items will get completely replaced.
The intake is removed, followed by all the coil packs. The throttle body is one of those items that will get replaced. The new one will allow for more air to pass through it.
The last thing to be removed is the fuel rail. It houses all the injectors which need to be replaced. The new DeatschWerks injectors we picked up from SummitRacing.com have a higher flow rate, providing more fuel for our supercharged engine.
The coil packs we removed are also getting an upgrade. We swapped them out with some Street Fire coils we got from Holley Performance.
With these all swapped out, we'll reinstall the injectors. Slide in our coil packs, bolting everything in place.
And since we upgraded our coil packs, we opted to go with some ceramic boot wires we picked up from Holley.
We'll follow these up with the new throttle body we picked up from Summit Racing, which will pair nicely with our supercharger.
All there's left to do is wire everything up. We'll need to make some connections to each of the fuel injectors, each of the coil packs, and plug in all the appropriate sensors.
All of this is tied into the Holley Terminator X Max ECU, which we mounted to the inner fender.
Coming up, we install the Mac Daddy of upgrades.
That's right, it's time to hear the whine of a Vortech Supercharger.
Our Drift Trailblazer has gotten all the fuel and spark upgrades it needs, and now it's time to add a proper supercharger.
The blower we picked out is a centrifugal Vortech supercharger that pairs with LS engines. It comes with all the spacers and piping you need for the install. This kit was not actually designed for our Trailblazer. It's designed for a C5 or C6 Corvette, so we anticipate some modifications to get this thing to work. To kickstart this install, we have to do some disassembly first. The entire front drive essentially has to come off. This includes things like the alternator, front drive bracket, and the water pump.
With everything pretty much off the front of the engine, we can move on to the Vortech kit. Now there's a number of things we need to set on there before we can actually install the blower. We'll start with the harmonic damper. In this application, this part will have a lot more force applied by the belt than usual. To keep it from spinning on the crankshaft, we'll use a drill bit with a cheap depth guide and the provided drilling jig from the blower kit to key the damper to the crankshaft. The provided pin will keep these clocked in the same position.
With that keyed, we can add the damper bolt and torque it down to 250 pound-feet.
All right, step one's done. Let's put the bracket on. Well, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, I think if we maybe cut it right here, and then if we need to, we'll re-drill and tap a hole for the support, put it somewhere in there.
Now we need to make a small mod to the bracket that holds on the supercharger. I'm not too worried about making this cut because this is a beefy bracket and there are a ton of bolts that hold this together. Let's do test fit. Let's see how this is all gonna play out.
Looking better already.
Yeah, we got clearance.
That's one hurdle out of the way, and that one small mod works so far, but now we need to see if the supercharger is actually gonna fit.
Well, let's see how this fits then.
Nope.
That's not a good sign.
Now we need to reiterate that this kit is not made for our Trailblazer SS, so we gotta make another mod. But that's as simple as grabbing a cutoff wheel and getting rid of a little bit of the inner fender. Let's see how close we are or aren't.
Does it fit right? Where's that go? There?
I think we got a winner.
Oh, I think we're good.
With a few simple mods, the supercharger is now resting where it should be, but we still have a lot to do before we can call this job done. The pulley for the supercharger still needs to be installed, along with the tensioner pulley, which will keep the belt from flying off. With the installation of the remaining pulleys, we can finally test fit everything to make sure it all lines up.
That's a good test fit right there.
Yeah, everything looks like it lines up, so we can go back, tighten everything on this system, try to get the front of the motor back together.
A few odds and ends remain. We need to hook up the oil feed line to the supercharger, the Corvette power steering pump needs to go in, the alternator needs to be installed, and we'll slap on the water pump.
With the front drive buttoned up, we'll add the charge pipe, which will send all that boost to the engine.
With the front end going together on our Trailblazer, we're ready to lay down some numbers on the dyno.
We came down to visit our buddies at Engine Power because they have a chassis dyno that's going to allow us to properly measure how much horsepower we're making at the tire.
All right, guys, it's all together. What do you think?
I really like it, and I'm digging the hot charge. That's old school, so.
Man, this thing, being a GM SUV guy, I love it, but it reminds me of a modern day Mad Max truck. The wicked graphics, the blower with no intercooler, what you guys did inside this truck with the cage and the safety features and everything on it, I'm a huge fan.
That was all Jimmy's idea.
I'm just excited because I've never done anything boosted, and I don't know, I have no idea what kind of power it's going to make, so.
Well, these things are decent from the factory, right? And this one sounded like it had a little bit of a cam in it from PowerTrain Products, so a good engine with a little bit of boost, you're going to be surprised.
What hot charge, what do you think? 15, 20 horse per pound of boost?
Yeah, we're not used to doing a lot of hot charge stuff, so we're going to find out. So.
Well, speaking of finding out, I get to sit in the driver's seat, but I've never done this before, so you guys are just going to have to.
Well, we're going to babysit you, so, but it starts off with getting in.
Yeah, go plant your butt in the hot seat.
All right, I'm in the driver's seat, first time. What do I do?
Okay, very easy. It's like driving. You're going to take the brake off. That's the red button. You're going to get it up rolling, and you're going to get it all the way up into 4th gear. And then at your start RPM, you're going to stab the throttle, and you hit the green button, and that's how it acquires data. You're going to run it up to your top RPM, whatever you want to stop at, and then you take your foot off the gas. Do not hit the vehicle's brake lever. The red is the brake. So you take your foot off the gas pedal and then click it up into neutral. You can clutch it and click it up into neutral. And then when you stop, it'll will acquire the data. But the biggest thing is it's going to be a little jumpy. It's going to be a little bit hard to get used to. Just don't hit the brake pedal on the vehicle. That's it.
Foot away from that completely.
Yeah, just stay away from that. But run it up to your RPM and make sure you have it all the way to the floor. It's easy to when you first start to not push it all the way to the floor. That's what you do on this thing.
Flat foot.
So yeah, and you don't have to steer. And,
right, I got nothing
and all you
over
have
here.
to look at is your tack. So you'll get it. But it'll take maybe a little bit to get used to, but you'll be fine.
We'll get it.
All right, you ready?
Let's try it, I think.
Take your brake off and let her buck.
Red button's off. First gear, here we go.
Okay, are you ready? First hit, 493.99. Torque is 465.
Oh my God.
And that is at
5.4.
5.47 pounds.
And we still got more to go.
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty more to go.
Nice. All right, next run, what I want you to do is bring the starting point of the sweep up. So start at 3,000.
Okay.
And you pulled it to 6 that time, pull it to 6,500.
Okay.
All right, it's all you.
Oh, baby. That wasn't bad right there. Yeah.
Oh my God.
There it is. 518, 487 pound-feet. Dude, that's nice.
That's really good.
On our second run, we gained 25 horsepower and 22 pound-feet of torque, but I think a third run will do us some good because the Terminator X kit is still doing some self-learning.
That's pretty nasty right there. Oh. Right there, yep.
That's it.
Nice, nice, nice. 529 horse, and it broke 500 on torque, 505.89 pound-feet.
Bam!
There it is.
Bam!
All right, that is, I would say that's as close to probably making 600 at the crank as you can get.
I think it's going to be a handful the way it is. I think we're good. What do you think, Jimmy?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Remember, there's no such thing as too much power, just not enough driver.
That's totally
No,
me.
that's in my case anyway.
That's totally me.
Another good dyno day.
It's outstanding.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Dyno days are my favorite.
529.
Up next, we take 529 ponies to the track and wear out some tires through the clipping points.
It's a lovely day here in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we're here at NCM Motorsports Park where they have an incredible road course and a giant paddock area for us to do some testing and tuning.
And members of their driving club get 32 days a year dedicated just to them to really open up the throttle and have some fun with their own vehicles. And that's exactly what we're gonna do today.
Yeah, we laid down just over 100 cones so we can take out our 529 horsepower Trailblazer for a little spin.
We also have a stack of tires on standby with all the tools to do a quick change out because we're gonna be laying down a lot of rubber today. All right, so we're gonna be taking a page out of Josh Robinson's Drifting 101 lesson that we had earlier in this build, and we're gonna take it kinda easy. We're gonna start off with some controlled slides, basically doing donuts around a cone, so we can get a feel for how this Trailblazer is handling.
I'm absolutely in love with this thing being a 6-speed. Having all that control with the clutch and the added horsepower made everything handle super tight. Not to mention, the general tires are really holding up to the abuse.
Good job, dude.
My head's kind of a spinning mess right now, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
It steers really nice. It's got all the power in the world.
Awesome.
You know, I think I'm going to take a break, though, so I can get my head cut together. Why don't you hop in here?
Sure. Getting back behind the wheel, it felt completely different. The camber adjustments we made with the upper control arms really made it feel like I had some authority when whipping around the cone.
Well, Jimmy and I are nowhere near the skill level of Formula Drift drivers, but with a quick tire change, we're gonna give it a go on the track.
Let's go over the rules for our drifting challenge and see how the points will be awarded.
And to keep this unbiased, our producer's gonna be the one awarding and tallying up the points. Now, the first set of points are gonna be for who can maintain the closest proximity to our clipping zones. There's 4 clipping zones, 1 point per zone.
Second, 1 point will be awarded in regards to style. Whoever can go through the course most gracefully, maintaining the most angle while transitioning in and out of the turns.
And the last 2 points are gonna be awarded to whoever can get through the course without spinning out or straightening out in the least amount of tries.
Pretty much whoever can learn the fastest.
And this guy's going first.
I took off on my first run with just a basic idea of how to start a slide. And to no surprise, I spun out. In my second attempt, I felt a little more confident, but I felt like I had to go a little bit faster to nail the slide. But it happened again, and again, and again, and again. I had lost count at this point, but I was set on getting one solid run before handing the reins over to Jeremy.
After 31 failed attempts, Jimmy's determination drove him to link this entire course together.
Now I just hope I can do it in, well, let's say under 40.
With Jeremy behind the wheel, I like to think he learned something from me, but something tells me he's just an all-around good driver.
Well, while our producer is tallying up the points, Jimmy, how do you think you did?
Pretty good, I think. So 31 tries and 2 hours for me to complete the course, which I think is pretty good for someone who doesn't know how to drift. But in terms of like how close I got to the clipping zones, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's too hard to really tell the clipping zones when you're in the truck. The truck kind of does everything it wants to do on its own. We just don't have enough seat time to really make this work, so. All right, points are in. He's got her all tallied up. All right, how many runs did I do it in? I did it in 12, and I got 2 points.
Good job.
And you did it in 31. Style points. Well, you got 1 point for style, and there's just a big honking 0 next to me, so I didn't even get any points.
Awesome.
But I agree with that, because you transitioned way better between all your clipping points. And then clipping zones, I got a point, and then you got 3 points, and that's obviously...
No way.
Yeah, well, that's how close we got to the cones and stuff, so...
I didn't even know.
You had a really smooth run. Oh my gosh, I lost again! How is that even possible?
All right, that's on the year. I think that's 3 wins for me.
Yeah, and I got 3 points,
Yes.
and you got 4 points.
That's awesome.
But I got 2 extra points because my run was quicker.
No, I think overall, like, you're better at drifting than I am.
This is
At least from what I mean, you picked it up faster.
this is disappointing.
Awesome. Check out more of our builds at PowerNationTV.com.